Okay, guys, how's you going today? So, yeah, it's a hot one in the damn shop. I got the fan going a little bit to kind of move the air around a little bit. I guess it's just so damn. It's kind of hot in there. It's nice and cold outside though, so I don't know how it's gonna be hot in here because I had the door up freaking earlier. But so yeah. Anyways, the soybeans showed up today. I was gonna make a video putting them in, but I completely forgot about the camera. I was gonna maybe grab the GoPro and put the GoPro on big red and just let it record. I guess whatever the hell happens. I just forgot about it. So yeah. So the beans are in. It took the whole 20-pound bag. I would have had a little bit more for the south garden. I put a little bit too much on the north garden, so I went around. So the north garden is going to be a thicker crop than the south one. The south one should still grow in. I don't know how big these plants will get, but pretty much a 20-pound bag will cover it, as long as doing it with a spreader would probably be the ideal way. But what kind of a spreader I could use to run that would take soybeans, I don't know. I was going to get that little Scott's handheld spreader. There's 3 different kinds, but 2 of them are Scott's, and then the other one's a totally different brand. But the Scott's, the one there is $11. It's not the biggest thing in the world, but it's good enough for what we got to do with for what we got to do. So yeah, but I had figured it out by hand, and I put a little bit too much on the. Let's turn that off. I just did it all by hand, and then I just kind of went along with it and just figured out what would work. Because sometimes if you can put seed down by hand, if you can get your angles right and your wrist moving right. That doesn't really work for me. Surprisingly, what I found that did work for me, it's probably not ideal. I didn't try it on the north garden, but I did do it on the south one. Was just to take a handful of the seed and just throw it up in the air, and then let it fall down on its own. It'll basically just spread out on its own, whereas the way I was throwing it with my wrist, you would end up with like piles in one area, and then the other would be kind of light. So it's like there's too much crop in one area, not enough in the other. So found it to be a little bit easier if you just grab the handful and throw it up in the air and just let it come back down on its own. It would sprawl out on its own, and it would cover better. So if I do that next year, I'm just going to throw them up in the air, and and it's a little bit better that way too. You get more coverage and whatnot. I know that the north garden got too much, especially in that one little piece. It got way too much soybean in it. The only problem I have is that I was a little bit more of a pain in the ass in the north one than it was the south one, but the chain on the cultivator thing was just not working. Well, it was working, but it wasn't working great. It was working for when I wanted to smooth it out, like before seeding, because I went over it before I seeded it to smooth it out. Because if you don't, then what happens is that if you got a pile of dirt, and if all the seeds hit it, then they're just going to roll right into the ditch. They're not going to roll. They're not going to stay there. So I smoothed it out because I knew that then it wouldn't really go anywhere. So I did that with both gardens. I went over them a few times. I did go over them once with the with the tines in the ground. Forgot to pick up these damn screws here. You know, just to start with, and then as I was harrowing it out, or smoothing it out, the dirt, I just lessened the tines a little bit more. Seemed to work. Of course, I dragged the chain behind it, but another problem is I think that chain that I'm using is too light. I need a heavier one. The little chain that I got now is a chain that I keep on Big Red for in case I need to pull something. But that chain's getting thin. It's getting wore out, so I may have to get a bigger one and a longer one. I don't know. This chain's not very long. It's not long enough for what I really like it to be. It works for things, but it's fine if you're going to pull tree branches, but when you need to pull something, it's, you know, or especially when I want to put it on the cultivator, it's not quite long enough, so I have two tines on the very edge that are not inside the chain, they're actually on the outside of the chain, so those tines kind of not, they don't really do any good. I had a damn tine pop on me earlier today, right when I got done. It just come loose and popped out, so I gotta fix that, but I ain't gonna worry about it. I'm done for this year now, so what I ended up doing, didn't have to do so much for the south one, mostly for the north one. I had to actually cultivate, because going over it with this chain was not burying the seeds. It was, a few got buried, but the thing is, you have to keep going over it, and you would either bring those seeds right back up, or they weren't getting buried. Now, if I had a real harrow, it would be probably a lot better. But it don't help either overseeding. I don't know if maybe that was the problem. I just put too much seed down, and it took longer to bury the south or the north one than the south one, because the south one had less seed on it. So that one was easier to bury. So, and I wasn't really sure how much to put down, you know, for the garden, so I figured I'd just put it on kind of thick. But I guess the north one I put it on too thick, because I was literally out. Well, when I had a little bit of seed left, but when I went to the south garden, I had about a cup and a half left. I had a container. I would pull it out. I wasn't going to carry that 20-pound bag of seed, you know, so I just got a little cup thing, would fill it up, and then as I would walk down the garden, I just grab a handful and just spread it out. And then on the south or north garden, some of the seeds did get buried. Some of them did not get buried, so I don't think those are going to grow because they're not buried. The ones that did get buried probably will grow. The south one, yeah, there's a couple here and there that didn't get buried as well, but it definitely did a lot better. I don't know why. Maybe because there's just less seed there. I don't know. I had too much seed on the north one, and it was taking longer to bury them. It's like, well, hell, you bury two and you pop one back out. So it's like, Jesus Christ, what do you do? So going over it, like I said, with just a chain, wasn't really burying them. Wasn't even burying them hardly at all. So I figured, okay, I'll drop the tines, maybe I'll turn up a little bit more dirt, maybe they'll get buried. Okay. So I started lightly tilling or cultivating. Okay, you bury probably a couple more, but then you just weren't burying them. So I just kept going deeper and deeper until I started burying them. I still never buried them all. So, like I said, I'm not sure how much to put down, you know. Like, I ended up putting the whole bag down, but that's for 2 gardens. So a 20-pound bag would do it. It's pretty much, well, just right. I just have to make sure I don't overseed. And I think especially in the north one, I know that I overseed. I would like to get a spreader like a handheld one or something, and then put it on lightly, and then let that grow. Like, I want to see if this will grow. If this heavy stuff doesn't grow because there's too much of it, then I'll know that it needs to be light. You would think that you would want them close together for cover, because you want to cover the dirt. You don't want any dirt exposed, because then if you do, then you got weeds fucking growing. So I don't know. I'm going to be able to tell this year, though, because the North Garden's heavy on seed, and the South Garden's light on seed. There's not much seed on the South one, so I mean, there was enough there to cover it, but wasn't as thick as the North one. So, but yeah, I just found it easier to just throw them up in the air a little bit and then just let them fall down on their own, and then they would spread out on their own. Compared to trying to throw them with your wrist, they more want to go into a line than actually just all over. A spreader spreads it all over. That's what you want. Okay, well, I don't have a spreader, so the best thing that I found out to be as close to a spreader as possible was just to throw it up into the air. Let it go 10, 15 feet up above you, and then it'll fall down. There goes a jet. So I don't know. We'll see if we get a crop this year or not. I brought the bag here, and these are these are Roundup Ready soybeans, so I don't think I'll be feeding the cows this, but I thought it would be a green bag, but it's a white bag because it was poor packaging. But the bag was all right, but the box that came in was a joke. So this is Big Fellow soybean seed. It shows here what's all in here, which I don't understand why they even have that. You think it would just be seed, but this must have come off another harvest or something from last year or something. I don't know. But it says pure seed is 98%. Insert matter, or whatever that is 1.87%. Other crop is 0.8%. Weed seed is 0.5%. And then whatever that one there is, that one's 80%. And then another kind of a weed seed is none found. And the net weight was 20 pounds. Let's see if you guys can read any of that or not. I don't know. You guys can read that. This came all the way from Florida. So, yeah, I was actually thinking that we were going to have enough to last. Like, I thought we'd have some left over, but come to find out we don't. It took this whole entire bag to... We would have had a little bit left over if I was to have to lightly did both gardens, but I went heavy on the north one. So now I know you can somewhat... You have to find that happy medium for each garden. So I think what you should do is, what I would do is spread it, like get a spreader and then spread it on once and go to another garden, seed that, and like if you're putting on enough seed, you probably only have to go over at one time, but I'm kind of learning as I'm going, so it's basically, I figure I'd just go over it once, go to the next garden, go do that one, and then come back to the other one and see if you need to put more seed on, you know, or just keep going over it. Like, well, you want to go back and forth because you want to make sure that you at least put some seed on. You don't want to be empty. So that's what I did. I went and did the north garden, and then I went and did the south, and we had just enough to do it, but the south one has less on it, but actually it's probably just about right, really. Those seeds were easier to bury than the north one. Before I seeded, I didn't cultivate. I just harrowed. I just smoothed it out. I probably should have actually cultivated to rip it up to get more dirt exposed or loosened. But that north one, I ended up cultivating. Like literally, I ended up cultivating to the point to where I was pulling up new dirt, and so I wasn't really going that deep. I think that was just a wet spot. There is a wet spot underneath there now, underneath the garden. There's a dry, like I think like 2 inches of it is dry, and then the rest of it's wet. So if the top 2 inches can get wet, I think then the seeds will take off. And then once they get a root going, and they get more than 3 inches, they're going to be hitting a nice moisture spots, and then they're going to really be able to take off and grow it after that. You can see it's a sunny day today, so that's why I did it. I just got my seed today too. I got it way earlier. It came by the mail. I thought it was going to come by FedEx. That's what it said. So I guess apparently it just wasn't worth it for them to come and do it. So they dropped it off at the mail place there, and the mailman brought it. So yeah, we will see if we get a crop off of this or not. There's different kinds of soybeans. I thought on that website. This says Seed Ranch, but I bought it from SeaWorld, so I don't know why. I don't really know why there's two different names of companies on there, but whatever. But yeah, this is the bag. Online it shows a green bag, so I don't know. Maybe it's a green bag if you were to pick it up at your local store, I suppose, or at whatever. But when they ship it on over or by UPS or whatever, mail, then it's in these white bags. And that's only a 20-pound bag. It's a good thing I didn't. It's actually a good thing I didn't get a 10-pound bag, because 10 pounds never would have been enough. I don't think I would have been able to even light cover it. It would be so light that it wouldn't even be worth it then. So, but yeah. So we'll let them grow up and see what they do. Like I said, I'm not too sure what I don't think the cows would eat it because it's Roundup resistant. Or it's Roundup ready. These beans are anyway. I think there's another kind of a soybean that you can buy doesn't have that Roundup in it, or it's not Roundup resistant or whatever. I don't know if it would be any cheaper than this or not, but figured I at least, I'm going to give every brand a try, So, after I try this brand, we'll see how it does. I'm sure it'll grow. Once we get some rain, it'll grow. They're talking storms tomorrow, possibly, because tomorrow they're putting us in for, I think severe. So actually, we need some rain, enough to soak in the seeds. But unfortunately, not all the seeds got buried. So it's 6 o'clock already. Holy shit! So the best thing to do, guys, if you're going to do this in your garden, one is get a real harrow. I think that's what would help if I got a real harrow. And the other thing too is that the chain on the cultivator is not heavy enough. I'm going to get a bigger, heavier chain, put it on the back of the cultivator, because this chain just floats over everything pretty much. Hey, kitty. Probably could have shoved some bolts in it, maybe weight it down a little bit more. I don't know. But I'm going to get a bigger chain. Something much heavier, like even something as big as that 25-footer. Give it another chunk of that and just cut it up to it would fit that cultivator. So yeah, either get a heavier chain or get an actual harrow. I know there's one guy on YouTube that he pulled some kind of a big board, like a railroad tie. He's pulling that behind his tractor to smooth out the field. I guess that would be fine if you're smoothing it out, but not for if you have seed on the ground, because then you're just going to be pushing the seed. You're not going to be burying it. You need a harrow where it kind of stirs the dirt up and then the seeds kind of just happened to fall in there, you know. It's either that or I need to get a drill. Now, we do have a seed drill at the farm, but that thing's really old and it actually needs some work in order to use it. I don't feel like fucking with it right now. So, I don't even think the damn thing's even got a hitch anymore. I think someone robbed it off. So, you'd have to print out this custom make one in order to have it fit to any piece of equipment. Or I'm going to have to get some kind of a pull type one, like a small one for back of the four-wheeler or something. It would either have to be done that way with a good harrow, or you would have to get some kind of a seed drill and drill them in. That's the only way you're going to get them in the proper way. So, there is one on Northern Tool. There's actually quite a few, but there's one that's a 60-inch. But it's a 3-point model, and it's not a pull type. And even for the 3-point, it's still a lot of money. So, the cheapest thing I can do is just use a spreader. I might actually go buy that $30 spreader on that Seed World website there. It's a bag seed thing. I think you can run soybeans through that one because it's bigger, but that little Scott's, I don't think you could. They have a slightly bigger model too, but I don't think it's going to be much better. So I'm going to go order that big fucker for next year. And then see if I can spread soybeans with that. You know, it would do a much better job too. And then if I want to put fertilizer down, I could. I'm not going to do anything with those soybeans. They're on their own. I'm not going to water them. I'm not going to fertilize them. They're going to just do their own thing if they want, and then they can die off at the end of it. Well, they'll die off when they're ready for harvest, but I won't be harvesting them, so I'll either probably just cut them with the mower, or I don't know. I'm going to see what these soybeans will do, and if they do what I think they're going to do, if they'll do what I would like them to do, I think they will make their own seeds. So, but the seeds probably won't be like this. They'll probably end up being in some kind of a little shell, you know. So, if they were really nice and dry, I would take it. I'd go really fast with the cultivator and drag the cultivator across them and see if I can knock the seeds off. And then the seeds can just rot into the ground, and there you go. You know, and well, they won't rot. They'll actually just grow. They'll be there for next year, and they'll grow next year. Because that's what happened to our plants from last year when we did garden. We pulled those plants out, and some seeds fell in the garden, and we didn't even know about it, of course. And I know that I buried those fuckers deep too, because I was cultivating the shit out of it. They still grew. A few of them did, so if I can get the soybeans to do the same thing, then maybe I won't have to buy another bag of soybeans for next year. You know? So, won't have to do that. So, but this here will just be a trial run, and hopefully they'll grow. You know, it'll be nice to do some actual good to the gardens for once, because we're not planting anything in them this year, and it probably won't be next year either, until we get that hunk of junk fixed. I'll probably either try to fix it this fall, or maybe next summer. But I actually got to run to the hardware on payday and pick up some more fucking Roundup, because getting some thistles coming in there in the pasture, and I'm getting some milkweeds now too. Behind the barnyard there, they're all fucking coming back. I sprayed the shit out of them last year. So I know I gotta go spray them again this year, so I'm gonna get a bottle and see if my grandma will get at least a small bottle to help out, because buying Roundup's ridiculous. You know, it's expensive stuff, and so, you know, kills good, but doesn't kill the damn. I wish it would bring the fucking seeds too, but it don't. So yeah, so that's what's going on, guys. I'm gonna probably take off here now. Just wanted you guys to see I wanted to get it on video, but I totally forgot about it. So if they grow, I'll let you know. You guys will probably get an update video maybe at some point. I know some of those seeds probably won't grow, not unless there's a heavy rain and it pushes the seed into the ground. That's the only way I can see it probably happening. But most of them got buried, so hopefully those at least will grow. If the ones that don't grow this year, maybe they'll grow next year. Because maybe they'll actually get buried then next year. I don't know. But we'll see. So anyways, guys, I'm going to take off. So I guess have a good day and stuff. So yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. Take her easy.